What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a story time for y'all I think you're going to enjoy from my time working at the movie theater. You know, it was an interesting job, definitely taught me a lot of things, but regardless, I think y'all will enjoy it today. Before we get into it, though, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam, your first job will be this awful, and you don't want that. Without further ado, let's go.
Nice racking her ass Brazilian, just turned 21, but my bank's a million.
Alright, so I'm gonna be honest, the absolute worst times to work at a movie theater are like the opening weekends of a movie, but in particular, animated movies just had the grossest theaters, wildest situations, because, you know, a room full of 300 4 to 9-year-olds with sticky substances is going to get pretty gross. But on top of that, I'm telling you, it's like these kids just had a knack for dropping popcorn everywhere and then stomping it into like a thin paste that covered the entire floor of the theater. It's cleaning up after the opening of an animated movie made me realize that things can get dirty in ways you don't even think are possible. There was one time a kid covered an entire chair with popcorn and then mushed it into the fabric. We had to replace the whole chair. Regardless, on this particular opening weekend, there was something that, you know, happened more commonly than I would care to admit, which was the fact that like people would drop off huge groups of small children unattended for movie openings. And there was this group of 12 like 9 to 10-year-olds that was just being particularly horribly behaved because, you know, they're 9-year-olds with no parental supervision. They were just screaming, yelling, throwing popcorn at each other, the usual. The only difference is instead of a parent trying to be like, hey, don't stop, like don't do that, stop, there was just nobody to tell them to stop. So they were just getting incredibly out of control. And we thought maybe it would calm down when the movie started, but the movie starts and sure enough, they're still screaming, freaking out, yelling at people and whatnot. And my manager says, hey, will you go in there and calm that situation down? And obviously, I don't really want to go in there and deal with this at all. I didn't get paid enough to like go try to deal with a bunch of angry, unsupervised kids. But on top of that, you know, I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to do anything. If they didn't care about the fact that other people in the theater were already being like, hey guys, please be quiet, there's no way they were going to listen to me, you know, when I go in there with like my broom and I'm like, hey guys, can you stop? But whatever, I decide to go take a crack at it. So I go in there and I'm like, hey guys, you're kind of disrupting the movie for everyone. Will you please be quiet or I'm going to have to ask you to leave? And the ringleader of the 9-year-old goes, shut up, and just like throws popcorn at me. And I'm not gonna lie, like, good thing it's dark at a theater, because I smiled and laughed a little bit because it was just so outrageous. It was like something out of a South Park episode, you know? It was just kind of funny. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, I'm not really gonna deal with this. I took a crack at it. They told me to shut up and threw stuff at me, so I'm gonna go get my manager. I just did not get paid enough to go like fight with this kid, rip the popcorn bucket out of his hands and like drag him out of the theater. So I go tell my manager, hey, I tried my best, but they're throwing stuff at me. They're not listening. You know, I don't really think they're going to listen to me. They don't seem to think that I have any authority. So it's probably best that you go in there and handle it. And this manager in particular was like one of the laziest managers that I had, you know. He didn't really want to do anything, even more that none of the workers wanted to do anything. So he's like, oh, can you please take care of it? And I'm like, man, trust me, I just went in there and tried. They're not listening to me at all. They're only going to listen to you. Like, and even then, they might not. But there's no way I can handle it. And, you know, he's kind of groaning about like, oh, I don't really want to deal with this. And it's like, yeah, bro, none of us want to deal with this. Do you really think I felt like going in there and dealing with that just now? And finally, I put some pressure on him, and he's like, fine, I'll go handle it, but I want you to come with me, like, just in case they freak out on me and try to fight me. Which, listen, in normal situations, I would think was nuts, but we had both worked the opening of animated movies, and trust me when I tell you these things get crazy, they get crazy. And on top of that, a pack of, like, 12, 9-year-olds, that's a scary thing to try to fight by yourself, dude. They're throwing popcorn at me already. Imagine he goes in there, the ringleader's just like, attack! A small army of children just starts coming at you. That would be one of the most horrifying ways to go, just being trampled by 9-year-olds. It's just like what happens to PewDiePie. If he ever has PewDiePie conventions, you know how he calls his subs the 9-year-olds. They're just gonna like crush him. Anyways, I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go with you. Not because I really felt like I could do a lot as backup. I didn't feel like they would care if I was there or not, but mainly because I wanted to see what was going on, right? So we go into the theater and we have this approach when we're gonna kick somebody out, and like you go in and you shine the flashlight on them because usually it makes them embarrassed. Like they don't want to continue to act like that because they know everyone's looking at them, right? So my manager goes in, he shines the flashlight on him, and he's like, you guys need to stop this at once. And, obviously, like, it just comes off very old man boomery. Because people just don't really talk like that anymore. Stop this at once! It just, the way he said it, the overall tone of it just sounded like it was just a 95-year-old man saying, get off my lawn. And obviously, I kind of cringed when he said it because I knew it was not going to work the way that he wanted it to. And sure enough, the ringleader of this little group is like, shut up at once, man. Shut up, you old man. And they just don't care at all. And my manager doesn't really know what to do at that point, just because, like, in his mind, he thought the flashlight and yelling was going to work. So he's just kind of standing there with the flashlight, and the ringleader just continues to insult him. He's like, look at this dude with the flashlight. Get out of here. Shut up. Blah, 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 blah. And at that point, the other patrons in the theater, like the other parents and their families, they're annoyed with these kids too. So they start to be like, don't talk to him like that. You have to be respectful. Do you have any idea how much you've interrupted this movie? And then the ringleader of the group is kind of arguing with everybody else. And this is the worst situation you can have if you're ever trying to like get somebody out, is they start arguing with everybody in a theater. Because if it's the opening weekend for an animated movie, you're in one of the bigger theaters. So pretty soon it's just everybody yelling, get out, no, you shut up. And the ringleader of the group is like looking like he's enjoying this. I'm going to be honest. Usually if you're in an embarrassing situation, you want to get out of there, dude. This ringleader looked like he was thriving in this moment. He's telling everybody to shut up, man. He was like, oh, you guys all suck. I'm going to do whatever I want. And what's wild is this kid had to have been like 9 or 10. I was flabbergasted that somebody this young would just be like out of pocket this hard in front of a theater of everybody. And it didn't matter how many parents told him to stop. Grandmas were telling him to stop. He was just like, all of you shut up. I don't care. I have to wonder what his parents tell this kid that makes him think it's all right to act like this. But everybody kind of starts to yell at him to the point where it's overwhelming, right? And so at that point, he just decides to do this, and I don't know why. He grabs his soda, a large soda, mom dropped him off with a 20, and he takes the lid off the soda, and he looks around, and he looks up, and he just takes this giant soda and throws it straight up into the air. And obviously, as soon as that happens, dude, it just starts to rain down. It's covering everybody, like 9 rows just getting covered in this soda because it's a giant cup. It's like a movie theater large. And at that point, my manager's like, I'm getting security. I don't know what to do. And I'm just kind of watching the situation in awe. I got covered in soda, I'm not going to lie. But at that point, I'm just kind of like, what in the world is happening? And so my manager leaves, and I don't really notice. That's like just not what I'm paying attention to at all, right? And I'm just standing here covered in Coke, and like, sure enough, the kid just goes back to yelling. He's like, yeah, you like that? I just gave you guys a soda shower. I could charge money for that, but I won't. Like, he's just going off in this theater, dude. And honestly, I didn't know what to do, bro. If my manager's clueless and goes to get security, I'm just kind of standing there making sure that he doesn't start like attacking people, basically. That's all I'm good for. I couldn't imagine being the other people in the movie though. Like, that's who I really felt bad for. I don't really have control of the situation, but I couldn't imagine being another person who had like paid good money to come watch the movie, and this is what you get instead. Trying to come enjoy the new animated movie. Next thing you know, bro, these kids are just like throwing soda all over the place. Imagine being a little kid. It's like the sequel of Cars. It wasn't a Disney movie, but like, Lightning McQueen, and then this kid is just like throwing soda all over the place, covering him in popcorn. He's throwing stuff at his mom, And anyways, after a bit, our manager comes back in with our security guard. And our security guard is a very, very chill dude. Like, honestly, whenever it was dead late at night on a weekday, we would just kind of stand in the hallway, like all the workers and him, and we would just talk and hang out. And he was usually a very calm guy, very big man. He was a security guard for a reason. And usually this theater we happen to serve alcohol at, his job would be like dealing with like drunk people. That would be his situation. Somebody drank too much in the theater, got belligerent, we would go and get him. And so he walks in and he's like, all right, guys, this isn't funny. Like, you guys are just gotta leave. You gotta leave. You've interrupted the movie too much. You're not getting a refund. Let's go. And the ringleader is like, oh, you think you can tell me what to do? What are you, a glorified mall cop? You have no authority to tell me what to do. So how about you get out of here and shut up too? I'm trying to watch the movie. And at that point, I knew that it was over. All right. Because our security guard, like I said, very, very chill dude, definitely was very hard to make mad. But he just didn't like to be played around with. You know what I mean? If you were going to be disrespectful and say that he was an idiot and had no authority, then he was going to show you that he had authority over the movie theater. And I don't know if this guy like had some ownership stake in the theater or what, but he was definitely like knew that there was not anything the management was going to do. And so he looks at him after he says that and he goes, son, all right, listen to me. I'm going to give you one chance to do this the easy way. You've interrupted the movie enough. You've been screaming. You've been yelling. You're throwing stuff everywhere. We're going to go to the lobby and call your parents so they can come get you since you can't drive. You can come with me the easy way or the hard way, but this is your chance. And the kid sits there for a second and is thinking, I think he's like, all right, if I challenge this dude and try to call him out and say he won't do anything, what are the odds that he'll do it? And he makes the mistake of thinking like, nah, I don't think this guy's going to follow through on his threat. So he looks at the security guard and he's like, I don't think you're going to do anything, you ugly old man. You have no authority. And before he can even finish the sentence of like, you have no authority to do whatever, the security guard just picks him up, and not even in like an aggressive way, like he's going to hurt him, but almost the way you would hold like a really gross trash bag. You know what I mean? Like just ew. He's got his arms outstretched and he's just kind of holding him, and he hands his hands on his shoulders and he's like, all right, dude, I told you, you had a chance to do it the easy way. And he starts carrying him like a stinky trash bag out of the theater to the manager's office. And the entire time, the kid's like, put me down. And he's like, hey, dude, I told you we were going to the manager's office. You're interrupting the movie. I'm not hurting you. Like, it's gonna be okay. And so I kind of follow the security guard out of the theater just because, that was the more entertaining situation than standing here and getting covered in more soda. And he puts the kid down in this chair in the manager's office, and he's like, you're going to give me your mom's cell phone number now. And he's like, I don't know my mom's cell phone number. And it's obvious that he's lying. The kid is funny, obviously rude, interrupting in public, causing a mess. I wasn't too thrilled with him, but it's obvious he's smart enough to know his mom's cell phone number. Like the whole, I don't know, it wasn't gonna fly, dude. And so the security guard goes, tell me the number now. And when he kind of yells at him a bit, the kid's like, okay, and just tells him the number instantly. Like he realizes the game is up. It's no longer a situation where he's in the theater messing with people that aren't going to do anything. He realizes this dude's not necessarily playing games. So he gives him the cell phone number, and the security guard like picks up the phone in just the angriest dial I've ever seen, puts in these numbers. All right, guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. On your screen now is a gift card code. I give one of them away in every video, so you should subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, so you never miss out on a chance to win some money. And if you already do, you're an absolute G. And yeah, while I'm interrupting the video for a second, be sure to press the like button, or no joke, no scam, your mom's a hoe, and I'll get back to the video now. Thanks. Anyways, it like angry dials in and he's on hold for a second, or it's ringing, just for a little bit. And finally, like I hear something on the other side go, hello? And the guard doesn't waste time. He's like, hi, I'm head of security over at this theater, and your son, and just starts laying into it. Interrupted the entire movie, repeatedly, threw things at our staff, refused to leave, and on top of that, when I went in to escort him out, he threw soda everywhere. He wasn't really there for that, but like, he's just explaining everything that the son had done in that situation to make it awful, right? And I don't really hear anything on the other end, and he kind of waves me away. He's like, I got it. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to go back to the theater and see what's going on. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of like, oh, I wonder what happened. It was a little bit exciting. So I go down there, and I see my manager and a couple of my coworkers escorting the rest of this little army out of the theater, right? Like they're getting escorted out. And I go over to one of my friends and I'm like, yo, what did I miss? Like I was with the security guard, but they're all getting kicked out. Is it just all of them getting kicked out, or is it like a situation where something more happened? And I guess after their friend had been taken to the manager's office or whatever, they had decided that like they had to avenge their leader, so they all started grabbing their soda and their popcorn and their candy and just started throwing it everywhere. And so they're getting escorted out, but my manager comes over. He's like, go tell projections to stop the movie. We're just going to give them a refund. And I'm going to be honest with you, very, very rarely has there ever been a situation where I had been told to like go tell them to stop playing the movie. That was basically a DEFCON 1 situation. So at that point, I'm pretty aware that this theater has to basically be destroyed, right? Like there's no way the mess that these kids made is small or going to be quick to clean up if they're telling me to go in and tell them to stop the movie. But sure enough, I take my orders, I go upstairs, which is where projections is, and I'm like, all right, they want you to stop the movie in this theater. They go over, they're like, are you sure? I say, yeah. and I go back downstairs. And before anyone's like, oh, all those people missed out on their money, no, that's not how it works. Basically, the way it works when they do this is that, like, you get a refund for your ticket, and then you get a free ticket, and they schedule a showing for, like, a different time for your movie. That's at least how we did it. So technically, you get 2 free movies. It actually isn't the worst thing ever. Obviously, you don't get to watch it that day unless you want to book a movie, like, in an hour. But, you know, it is what it is. It's the best we could do in that situation. So the people aren't too upset when they hear that they're getting a free ticket and they get to watch this movie again for free. But we get rounded up, and the manager's like, this theater's pretty bad, so 10 of you are just going to focus on cleaning this theater until it's done, and the rest of you are going to keep cleaning the theaters on, like, our normal schedule. And I go into this theater. I was on one of the teams that got assigned to clean this one until it was done, and I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I've never seen a theater this bad. I don't really count it as, like, the most naturally dirty theater, because obviously it was just one particular group making a giant mess. So 50 Shades of Grey is still up there as one of the worst. But I'm not kidding when I say this theater was, like, destroyed, dude. There was literally stuff everywhere. Like I said, that popcorn paste where people, like, stomp on popcorn to the point where it's like a part of the floor, that is basically everywhere. And it's so ground into the floor, and there's so much popcorn that one of us had to go get, like, a spatula from the kitchen. Don't worry, we cleaned it after, I promise. But, like, we had to literally scrape it off the floor. That's just how in the ground it was. And on top of that, because they were throwing soda everywhere, like, everything was sticky. We ended up having to replace a couple chairs that were just too covered in it. And there's soda on the ceiling. Like, this place had just been through the ringer, dude. I'd never seen it this bad. And there's 10 of us in there. It's probably an hour and a half of all of us cleaning straight before finally it gets to the point where we're like, we've done everything we can, all right? There's still messes, but I'm not climbing into the ceiling to clean the ceiling tile. So I come back out, and by the time the 10 of us come out, the 9-year-olds had obviously been rounded up and left. And usually, when you kick someone out of a theater, you just tell them to leave, you push them out the doors, and it is what it is. But obviously, because they were like a bunch of little kids, you know, they had to wait, call a parent, the parents had to come, they wanted to know what happened, that entire thing. And I come out, and everybody's like, dude, you missed it, our security guard went off, it was awesome, like, oh, I wish I would have filmed it, it would have been sick. And obviously, when everybody starts hyping it up, and like, I'd already seen him be dope today, what more could he have done, right? So I ask him, I'm like, all right, well, what happened? And everyone's like, I'll tell you on break. And thankfully, our boss at that point, our manager, was grateful that we cleaned the theater, right? So he's kind of like, don't sweat it. You guys just, you know, take a break, and you're just good until the next theaters come up to clean. So I guess what had happened is the 9-year-olds were in the manager's office waiting, all of them, and the security guard was just tired of them, right? Like, they weren't allowed to talk, they weren't allowed to smile. He just made them sit there and stare at the wall until their parents came. But whatever, the mom that came to pick them up, one mom in a minivan, I guess came in and like was super pissed off at the security guard and the manager, and was like, I was on a date, you know, I dropped my kids off at the movie so they have something to do while I'm out and about, and the fact that you interrupted them really puts a damper on my day. Just obviously not understanding that, like, she dropped off all these kids and didn't plan on the fact that they're like not very well behaved. And the security guard just starts going off on her. And he worked for like a security company, so he didn't really have manager rules, right? And he's like, well, guess what, lady? This is a movie theater, not a babysitting service. So if you want people to watch your crappily behaved kids, then it's up to you to pay somebody to do that. But you're not paying us to watch your kids. They interrupted the movie, they destroyed the theater, and he's just going off. And the mom gets mad and she's like, don't talk about my kids. You don't get to tell me that my kids are poorly behaved. And the security guard's like, they are poorly behaved. And at that point, I guess the husband got mad and decided to try to, like, you know, fight the security guard. So he shoved him. He's like, don't yell at my wife, which, you know, everybody's going to get defensive of their wife. Obviously, like, a wife would get defensive of her husband. It's just, that's kind of how it works in these situations. But the security guard was not playing. And so in front of all of this, like, all the kids and this dude's wife, he grabs the guy the same way that he had taken the little kid out of the theater like a piece of trash, picks him up, pushes him against the wall, and goes, you don't want to do that. You are banned from the theater too. Do you understand? And the guy like nodded his head and calmed down. Basically, he had gone absolute Superman hero mode, but I think it was just because he was mad more than anything. Like, he was the chillest dude. I'm telling you, I never heard this dude raise his voice, yell at anyone, get mad. But I guess like in that moment when people are telling you you're stupid and ugly, and then some dude's trying to fight you because you said they can't use the movie theater as a babysitting service, like that probably would make anybody kind of go a bit crazy on him, you know? But he became just an absolute legend. He didn't get fired. I was really worried about it just because, you know, like if they call corporate and complain too much, but he didn't get fired. He stayed the security guard, which is good because he was great at his job, man. If I ever like really needed backup kicking somebody out or something, then like, hey, I knew he was the man to handle it. Overall, I'd say the theater was a pretty good experience, you know, like if you have a chance to work at a theater, it's fun. You get to see behind the scenes of movie theaters, watch movies, and all in all, it's not the worst way to make a little money. I will say people definitely act weird though, you know, and movie theaters are not a babysitting service. Don't just drop off a horde of children with no supervision and expect it not to get out of control, because you're delusional if you think that. But yeah, anyways guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of the video. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to help me out more, you can check out the intro song linked down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount on G Fuel and help me out. Everyone's a winner, so you should go ahead and do that. And last but certainly not least, I did go ahead and put some of my story times up on Spotify, so that way you guys could listen to them offline without gameplay, whatever you prefer. So I'll make sure that link's at the top of the description, but if you want to help me out, you should go down there and click that. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, anyways, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.